Hello YouTube, I hope you're doing well. Today we're on code.org. We're in Unit 5, Lesson 7, Part 4. It says complete this program that runs a simulation of rolling a pair of dice 100 times and keeps track of how often doubles are rolled. After the simulation, the program should tell the user how many doubles were rolled. Then it gives us an example. It says the number of doubles rolled out of 100 total rolls is 19. This information is actually going to populate in our console down below. And then it gives us some steps to do. Before the loop, create a variable to keep track of the number of doubles that were rolled. At the start of the loop, update the conditional statement for the while loop so that there are 100 simulated rolls. Inside the loop, add the code that checks to see if doubles were rolled and updates the variable tracking the number of doubles if doubles are rolled. After the loop, update the console.log statement to include the number of doubles rolled. And as I look through this code, it gives us different steps throughout the project. Let's go ahead and just take a peek at what's going on in the code. The first thing I see is that we have a variable for our counter, and it's set at 0. And then we have two variables, one for our first roll, the second one for our second roll. Within this while loop, we can see that it's looking at the counter, and it's randomly generating a number between 0 and 6 for roll 1, and then doing the same thing for a second roll. We're missing some code here, and then it adds to the counter up here. This technically doesn't stop running. It just keeps running because there's no check here. And then finally, it's supposed to log things at the end. Let's go ahead and run the program just to see what we get. Down in the console log, it gives us some text, but it's missing that information for step 4. So let's go ahead and begin working on this. The first thing it tells us to do is to create a variable to keep track of the number of doubles that are rolled. What we're going to want to do here is just create a new variable. So we'll go to the variables section. We'll go here, declare a variable, and we'll drag that underneath. We're keeping track of doubles, so we'll call our variable doubles. And we're going to set that value to 0. And that satisfies step 1 of this project. Let's go ahead and go to this center section. I mentioned earlier in the video that this while loop just keeps running infinite because there's no check here. We need this to stop after it's rolled 100 times. What we're going to do is add the condition that it's checking the counter and that it's less than 100. And this will ensure that it will run 100 times and then it'll stop. That'll satisfy part 2 of this project. Now in this section, it says to add code that checks to see if the doubles were rolled. If doubles were rolled, update the variable that is tracking the number of doubles. At first glance, this might seem a little bit more difficult than it is. But what we're going to do is we're just going to look at these two rolls. And in order to do that, we need to go to the control section of the toolbox. And we just need an if to bring in. In our if, we're just going to compare the two rolls. So we're going to go to the math section. And what we want is this one, the equality operator. And we're going to look to see is roll 1 equal to roll 2. If that criteria is true, well, what do we want it to do? Well, we need it to add to our doubles variable. What I'm looking for is not in the math section of the toolbox, which is kind of terrible to be honest with you. So we've been working in the block view, but what I'm going to do is click show text. Because what I need here, if this is true, I need to change our variable doubles and then just add 1. Click show blocks again. The final thing that we need to do is this section right here, step 4. What we need to do is take this string of text and we need to add our count for doubles. I'm going to go back to the show text view. At the very end of the parentheses, I'm going to do a space plus. And what I'm going to do is just type out the name of my variables, which is doubles. And I'll go back to show blocks so you can see that. All right, let's just recap what we've done so far. The first thing that we did was we created a variable called doubles and we set that at 0. Then we looked at step 2. Within step 2, we updated our while loop to look at the counter and make sure that that count is less than 100. We then added an if in the middle that compared roll 1 with roll 2. We decided that if that was true, that we needed to add 1 to our variable that we created, doubles. If not, it'll bypass this and just add 1 to our counter. And then finally, we went to our console log and we updated the statement that was being produced, which is the string of text that they provided to us plus the number from our variable that we created doubles. Let's go ahead and run this just to see if it works. If I go ahead and expand the console section, we have the console output here. We can see that the total number of doubles that were rolled were 15. And if we look here at our watcher, we can see the rolls that were created and then our counter. This project wasn't too difficult after thinking about it for just a second, but if you struggle with this, I do encourage you to reset the project to the beginning and just go through the steps to make sure that you fully comprehend what's going on within the project. And when you're done, make sure you click finish.